Welcome everyone to the Undercover Brony Reviews. The episode reviewed today will be A Horse Shoe-In, written by Ariel Shepard Oppenheim.
That's all I got. Hey, what's up,
Great
everybody?
song.
Well, I thought about doing Alice Cooper's School's Out, but I had to make a decision. I thought, what song is the more often seen cliche? Another Brick in the Wall by Floyd or School's Out by Alice Cooper? Now, I probably could, there's a Nirvana song called School, but most people don't know a Nirvana song that is a heart-shaped box that smells like Teen Spirit. Anyway, so this episode,
Didn't POD have a school song as well?
I only know 3 songs from POD, which is Boom, Here Comes the Boom, We Are, Youth of the Nation, and then they did Rey Mysterio's theme song at WWE. Booyaka, booyaka. Okay, so this is an episode that I told John, it took me through many highs, took me through many lows, because there were times this episode was toying with my emotions so much. This is also the last Glimtrix episode of the show, which had me a little sad. Although, funnily enough, this episode's kind of a retread of I forget the name, but wasn't there an episode like a season ago where Twilight had to step out and then she's like, "Hey, Starlight, run the school, brah." And
yeah, it's like okay. the season opener, I think.
Was that season 8?
No, season 7.
7. Okay. So in this one, Twilight's like, "Look, I'm about to become a god or some shit. So like, you're gonna run the place, bro." And she's like, "But why though?" And then she's talking to Trixie or whatever. And then Trixie makes a very good point. She's like, "Well, I mean, you shouldn't have to worry about doing anything on your own." I'm paraphrasing, I think, but she essentially says Twilight's never done anything on her own, and it's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a couple of things that I want to say before we get to that specific scene. First of all, she has a plant that she calls Mrs. Philodendron, and she's like, "I'll call you Phyllis."
What was Philly too on the nose?
I don't know, but she's doing baby talk that actually works instead of in the previous part of the show where it just didn't work at all. This time it actually does work. She's like, "Come in." Oh, yeah, come in.
I don't know why, but that scene made me laugh way harder than it should have. Sometimes simple stuff like that just works for me. Because she's like, "Who's a good little blah, blah, blah," knock at the door. So it's like, come in. And I don't know why. I thought that was really, really funny. So that's when Twilight drops the news on her.
And Celestia sends a scroll and basically said, "Twilight, you're late for your royal like duties or whatever. Basically,
gotta learn about the
royal duty training." And she's like, "You got to know the importance of that royal napkin placement," and you find out it's napkin origami or something like that. Which I was like, okay, that's cool.
I've never really understood, not to be that fan, but I've never really understood how the thing of power really works in Equestria. Because, like, okay, so Celestia seems to be like the super, not all knowing, but she's the all authoritarian with Luna giving her backup. Okay, but like a season ago, Chancellor Naysay was like, "I'm going to uphold old school equestrian Christian values or whatever, and our school system is somehow more corrupt than the school than the Jedi Council." And Celestia, like, I don't think any of that was even brought to Celestia's attention until like the end, I guess. And like then there was that episode this season where they're trying to arrange for the thing with the geese or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, so have we this whole time do Celestia and Luna just like answer to like bureaucrats and business pony bros, because sometimes that's what it felt like. Because whenever Celestia and Luna are around, it's no issue. But whenever she puts Twilight in charge of anything, then suddenly Mr. Man's trying to be like, hey, meet the old boss, same as the new boss. Plot twist, I'm both bosses. And they try to like, dictate and control or whatever. But when Celestia and Luna are around, it doesn't work like that. But when they put someone else in charge, I don't know. It's really weird. I was really thinking about that more than I should have. Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Now, I gotta say, we have a new writer. Her name is Ariel Shepard Oppenheim.
Yeah, she's
number one. That's an awesome name.
Oppenheim.
And what's even better, she writes one of the greatest lines I have ever heard in this show. And it comes from fucking Trixie of all ponies. It's when they're walking down, and it's like, Starlight, you don't think that right now you're cutting into our plans or anything? And Saya's like, look, Twilight is only here for a few more weeks. I need to know as much as I can. And no, it was Trixie where she's like, do you think this is going to put a bear on our social life? And Starlight's like, what do you mean? And this is what Trixie says, and I love this. And I quote, take now, for example, instead of heading to the delightful lunch I had planned, we're striving with determination towards what I can only assume is Twilight's office.
Twilight's office. I forgot about that line, actually. That's funny.
That's a great line.
So, the whole episode, this episode is essentially every Trixie Starlight Glimmer episode that you've ever seen, which means it's really good. They're funny. Yes. And it helps that Kathleen Barr and Kelly Sheridan have, at this point, they're so well versed in their characters. They know how to bounce off each other perfectly in these scenes.
And that's great because, the thing with this is, because this is a cartoon, I know we've probably talked at some length about this before, but with the fact that this is a animation instead of real acting, that the voices have to come through a lot more than they normally would be if something like theater or a movie. But it's good to see that Kathleen Barr and Kelly Sheridan have that dynamic with each other, and their voices bring that to fruition.
And you can totally see it with whenever, like, Ashley or Tabitha St. Germain has a scene with like when Rarity has a scene with like Pinkie Pie or Rainbow Dash, or when Ashley Ball and Andrea Livman have scenes with themselves. The point is, these people know their characters and they know how to, hey, big shock. They've only been voicing them for 10 years, but it's credit to the team, okay? Especially considering Trixie didn't become a reoccurring character till 3 seasons ago, so,
Yeah.
Okay,
Now you were talking about how Trixie brought up the whole thing about how Twilight always uses her friends and stuff like that. And Starlight thinks that's a great idea. And this is brought up later in the episode, but I want to bring it here. I have like a bulleted list here because there's a lot that I took in. Trixie can be insightful when she wants to be and give good advice when she doesn't mean to. Which I was like, that's perfect. Because that is totally Trixie right there.
Well, what's that one line from the Aquaman movie? Oh yeah, it's like there's a scene where Merida tells Jason Momoa, no, I don't mean Aquaman, I mean Jason Momoa. There's a part where, because let's be honest, when Jason Momoa is in a movie, he's not acting, okay? He's just being Jason Momoa, who's a buff Islander bro, who's really chill. There's a scene where she's like, you do your best thinking when you're not thinking at all. That's what that reminded me of here, and I think that's a funny concept. So they keep going, and they get to the office, and the scene that John had just mentioned about, where Starlight tells her that, that's when she gets the idea. She's like, "Yo, I need a second in command. I need a secondary character here." And Trixie's like, "Oh, Starlight, you shouldn't have." And then it's funny. In most situations like this in the past, I feel like Starlight would have done a. I mean, she still let Trixie go for the job, but for the most part, in past times, she would have, humored Trixie a little more than she did here. In this case, even before her big blow up at the end, Starlight is really she's literally all but telling her, she's like, "Bro, the job ain't for you, and I don't think it's gonna work." But Trixie, being Trixie, she's able to she's a very persuasive mayor. Have you noticed that? She is it's hard to tell that pony no. Like, she forces you without forcing you, She never, metaphorically or literally, she never, ties her arm behind her back. She never really guilt trips her. And she doesn't, really force in the sense of, physically, and she's not, this intimidating thing. She's just able to just maneuver and then just be like, "This is a thing, and now I'm in the thing." And it's very funny to me. So her candidates, she has a line of candidates.
And I find it really crazy that for some god awful reason, so she has Trixie, of course. She has Dr. Hooves, which I think is a pretty good choice. She has Octavia, which makes sense.
That's where the emotions came in.
She has Big Mac. And then, for some god-awful reason, she had Spoiled Rich there. What?
Yeah, of all the people. I need to articulate my feelings about this procedure. I'm going to give a brief summary, but we're going to cover the scenes in order and what. But I need to articulate how this made me feel. I looked at that lineup and I was just like, "Huh, okay." And after the first the first test was be a substitute, a teacher, and Spoiled Rich fails. Everyone else does pretty good. And something awakened inside of me where feelings from seasons 2, 3, whatever, where I was just like, for the next 16 minutes, I was like the big Octavia mark that I was 7 years ago. Okay,
so you were big into Octavia.
All these tests, and it was great. And there was a point where I was like, "Okay, you know what? Screw you, Trixie. You're bad for this. You don't get it. I'm not like screw Big Mac. They've ruined him since season 3. And the yup. And I'm gonna be honest with you. The yup thing stopped being funny for me by season 2. Spoiled Rich doesn't matter. And who's the other one?
Dr. Hooves.
And Dr. Hooves, okay, he's based off the 10th Doctor, who's basically off the 10th Doctor, and one, screw Doctor Who, even though I like Doctor Who, screw David Tennant, even though I like David Tennant, okay? You took all of Christopher Eccleston's accolades and popularity, and that's half the reason he never came back. And honestly, the whole Doctor Who thing was always an overrated piece of fandom. It goes like this, okay? Here's the scales of things in this fandom that were cool character-wise, okay? It goes Lyra Bonbon, Derpy, Vinyl Octavia. Dr. Who's is just above it's just above the gore fix, okay? He was always a lazy fan idea. He was lazy and it was uninspired. Oh, let's have him and Derpy go time traveling. We've never had a Doctor Who crossover in a fan base before. No, this whole time I was like, yeah, let's go Octavia. I read so many Octo Scratch fanfics once upon a time. I was like, yeah, and then she shows
the best one of them all. The best one of them all is University Days. Gotta say that.
There was a World War II AU I really liked. Anyway.
Oh, that would have been. You need to send that to me because that sounds fucking awesome. It's
Yeah, I need to see if I
stupidly
can still
awesome.
find it. I need to see if I can still find it because it was part of like a section of things. Anyway, and then I was doing backflips during the field trip one where she's like got this sick concert and then freaking Vinyl Scratch comes out and then they have the electro classical jamathon and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna give this to Octavia. I was so happy. I was so stoked. I had to rewatch the last 10 minutes of the episode because I was too jazzed on the idea of Octavia being the vice principal to Starlight. And then the last 2 minutes of this episode pissed me off and I had to take a breather because I was like, oh my god. I literally went from like Octavia, rah, do it for Eli Monty before she sold out. And then they're just and then Starlight's just like, she told me she thought it would maybe get in the way of her orchestra duties. And then this was me. So anyway, that's the random thing I decided to rant about for this episode was they really I was simultaneously actually a little
They were
I
stringing
was
you on.
simultaneously actually mad but actually laughing so hard because of how ripped off I felt.
Okay.
So
Well, let me tell you this. It's funny that you say all that because the moral of the episode is literally how Starlight shouldn't like pull Trixie along and should have just said right from the start that I'm not going to choose you, which made sense. But the episode itself stringed you along and then told you no. So it's like homecoming, like the meta and the moral are combining into one.
Okay, so let's go through these gags.
Okay.
So spoiled rich sucks at substituting.
Because
Big Mac
wanted to do an economics class. Literally, she's just like, you can be more powerful when you're rich, which I'm going to show you the get rich quick schemes of this is how you can create your own Amazon FBA business. Blah, blah, blah. You know, like all that shit that you see on Facebook.
Spoiled Rich is actually low key an Amazon is actually an Amazon district manager.
Right? She's an area manager. Now I love how Big Mac is into sewing, which number one, that brings him back to what we saw in the cross-dressing episode, where it's kind of like, yeah, he has interests that are outside of a normal male, but still it's interesting and it's fun to watch. And I love how Ocellus is like, so you learned this from having to sew together apple sacks? And I'm like, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. It makes him very much even more of a utilitarian.
My first thought was, I got your apple sack.
Yeah.
Right. So utilitarianism. That's a great album by the Napalm Death. Anyway, I'm sorry. What?
Then Octavia has music class, which makes way too much sense.
And the Pinkie Pie comes out of nowhere and it just slams down with a tuba. I was just
with
like,
the Uvitophone.
That's not real, but yes, the Uvitophone.
And Dr. Hooves is
ponies are not real.
Dr. Hooves is has this like scientific motion machine,
which was actually
like everything. Yeah, where it's like those whole things where one thing leads to another, and then it was feeding, like a bird or something, which I thought was pretty cool. And then of course Trixie's is napping because Gallus gave her the idea of fucking cores. And yeah.
So then after that, it's next was the parent teacher conference, which was amazing because here's how great this scene was. So Grandpa Griff was always a jerk, right?
Yeah, Grandpa Gruff was horrible.
And he's being so. This is probably the meanest I've ever seen anyone be in this serialized television show. He's literally in front of Gal. I'm paraphrasing, but this is essentially what he says.
Basically, the worst outside of the villains, basically.
No, because I mean, this was pretty mean. So, like, he literally all but tells Trixie, he's like, I don't care if I'm his guardian or whatever, if he's proud of me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't even know why I'm here, blah, 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 blah. And then Trixie is like, she goes from zero to Tumblr mom real quick because she's like, hey, let that nerd alone. But then I couldn't find myself hating Grandpa Griff because I don't know who voices him. I've never looked it up, but he was hilarious. He was like a Scrooge McDuck without character development. He was like, oh Lordy Dog, I'd be happy to take him off my hands or whatever. And I'm just like,
I don't see why I have to come all the way down to Ponyville for this stupid parent-teacher conferences. And I'm like, you and every other fucking parent, I swear to God.
Well, I mean, yeah. But my point is and what was nice was this thing with Trixie and Grandpa Griff. This actually does get brought up later, so it was part of the overarching plot, which I liked. Because to jump to that, Starlight was like, why'd you get in a shouting match with Grandpa Gruff? And she's like, well, because he's a jerk, you know? Someone needs to get Gallus' back. And Starlight's like, no, you're right. He's a jerk. What you did was cool, but you got to keep your head in the game when you're talking to parents. I mean, geez, Lord knows there's probably been a bunch of however many teachers that wanted to strangle a parent when they met them. Alternatively, there's a couple teachers I wish I could have strangled. But anyway, so... And intermidst all these scenes of these tests or whatever, Starlight has like her little clipboard or whatever. And she's like, okay, you guys are going to stay. They're going to go. She keeps trying to justify keeping Trixie on board. Mm-hmm. But every time she's just about to take her off, Trixie comes to the door. And I'm paraphrasing. But she essentially says every time, hey, you know what, bro? I was conveniently thinking about a thing that you were most likely thinking about. And don't worry, dude. I'm going to be totes better than I was. Thanks, bro. Thanks, G. Wink. She said that like 8 times before these tests started. She's like, oh, I get it. Wink. And
and she's legit saying wink as she's winking. And I'm like, what the fuck? and the other thing that I love with the other characters in parent-teacher conferences, Dr. Hooves is using big words, but it's still understandable to the yaks, which makes sense because the yaks
aren't dumb.
Yeah, the yaks aren't stupid, they're just different culturally. So the fact that he's basically saying that Yona is doing amazing, and he's basically saying she's doing just as good with friendship as she would be with smashing. And they're just like, yes, yak, Yona best yak. And I'm just like, I agree, because I'm sorry, Yona is still best young 6.
Well, yeah.
The
Big Mac one though was really funny to me because what happens is it's the dumb usual Big Mac joke where, oh, you said these big words, but now you're only gonna say yep. And basically what Big Mac did was he was not Ocellus, what's her name?
The one with Octavia?
No, the Hippogriff kid.
Oh, Silverstream.
Silverstream, so her folks, right? They're well, her dad's there because continuity, her mom stays in the sea because that was probably an allegory for divorce or whatever. So she's like, so he's like, wait a minute. So you're saying my kid's like a good kid and like enthusiastic, and he's like, wait, are you? And this was like a really well written scene. I can't do it justice. You just have to see it, at least the scene. But
It's
it's
like
a very
you got to give me the specifics because right now there's too much nuance going on between is she being a good kid or is she being too reckless? Like I need to
which
know.
is really good writing because if you remember the flashback episode, Big Mac would always talk a lot without really saying anything. So
Uh-huh.
the idea is now that he's older and stuff, he talks less. He's able to choose his words more carefully. Obviously, he had a relapse here, but happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's what does him in. But
And I like that he's at
but the
least honest and like
yes,
talk to Starlight and is like, hey, I don't feel like this is the job for me. And she's like, well, I appreciate your honesty coming to me. And, I totally understand. We leave as friends.
this may speak
And
ill of me, but all I could think of after watching Big Mac and Silverstream's parent teacher conference, all I could think of was, man, it'd be a great idea. Is if someone writes an AU fanfic where Big Mac breaks up with Sugar Bell because he falls in love with Silverstream, but the plot setup is Silverstream runs into him one day out of nowhere after a fight with Sugar Bell, and she's like, and they totally bond because she's like, did you really mean it that I was energetic and enthusiastic? And he's like, yup. And then a May December romance blossoms from there. And then I'm like, why the hell is that where my mind went?
right. And I gotta say, I love how
Aged up
Octavia,
romance fanfics only really work when it's Spike or maybe the CMC.
when you said AU, I thought you meant alternate universe.
Well, okay, maybe not an alternate universe, but it would be canon divergent.
Yeah. So I love how Octavia brings everything. It's a music analogy of where she's gone from being quieter to being more outspoken. With she's gone from being pianissimo to mezzo forte or to
Wasn't it like
forte basically.
Fortissimo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
fortissimo, and they're just like
Which
so
is
does
an
that.
actual music analogy, as
Uh
you as
huh.
a band person would know, is
Uh
soft
huh.
to very loud.
Yeah, and I love how Ocelus's parents are just like, so does that mean she's doing good? Well, yes, of course. Yay! Just like yes. And then
My
the third one,
oh Jesus.
Octavia does the concert, which
Yes.
the one thing that I'll add on to what you were saying before was the fact that Gallus was like Starlight asks Gallus why he's looking all bored and like almost falling asleep. And Gallus is like, Octavia's idea of a field trip's going to a classical musical concert. I don't know how I can get into this. And then Vinyl Scratch comes out and provides the underlying beat to Octavia. And he's just like, okay, never mind. This is awesome.
Every time they ever do I mean, and I don't mean like whenever they do a song. I mean like whenever they do any musical anything in the show, like when they actually show instruments being played or whatever. My first thought is always, man, I wonder how John can somehow tie this back to his days in the drum line.
Well, what's it? Now that you
What's it like being in a school band but liking electronic music, which band players say isn't real music? Not all of them, obviously, but some of them.
yeah.
It's just
It was more of just like the thing was I wasn't really into electronic music when I was in the drum line.
yeah.
Because another thing that ponies really brought with me into my life was a lot of electronic music. I wasn't big into it until about mid 2012.
Oh,
So in a lot of ways, I was just like metal and band stuff. That was pretty much it. Which, by the way, the dude who I forget the guy's name, but he's the guy who does some of the Street Fighter music, I believe.
oh yeah, who's that dude? I know the guy, but yeah.
he actually there's a big concert called Bandorama, and
Yes, I know what that is.
one of the things that we had to play was a song written by the guy who composed for Street Fighter called Chaos Theory. He had his electric guitar along with a big like band setup. And the dude literally flew into our county to play with us live at Bandorama.
I just learned a lot about you right now. Holy hell. So anyway, to ponies. Now look. As a fair man, the Doctor Who gag was kind of funny, but I actually felt bad for him because, despite my opinions on him, Doctor Who's one of the most beloved secondary background characters in the show, and they made him. He looked real good this whole episode, but here with his time travel chair,
yeah,
they made him look like the biggest geek. Oh my god, they made him look like such a geek. I was like, is this the same guy?
I'm just like big fucking oof, mate.
Yeah, for real. I was just like, man, look, I before obviously the conclusion of the episode happened, I was like, man, I want Octavia to win, but dude, that's not even fair.
Yeah.
He's like 5, 3, 2, 4. You are now 5 seconds into the future.
Oh my god. And I love how Smolder's just like, dude, fuck you.
Smolder was not having any of Doctor Who's nonsense. Speaking of which, they actually called him Doctor Who's on screen.
I know.
That's spoiler alert. But yeah, they did. I was like, damn. So they'll name drop him, but they won't name drop Derpy after season 2.
Now,
remember when that was a big deal?
I know. Now, Trixie. Oh, fucking hell, Trixie.
Someone could have died.
She brings in Flash Bees from
I was like, damn, there's Barry, there's Bart, there's Wally, there's the first Flash. I forgot. He's like the best one. Whatever. Anyway, because all those people are names of people who've been the Flash.
Oh, I was thinking Flash
Thompson. Flash Bees.
Yeah, I was thinking Flash.
Anyway, the bees. Oh God, not the bees.
That was seriously one of the best, like, weird acting roles that Nicolas Cage ever did. He was just so fucking over the top with it. It was glorious.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now,
so tell us about the bees.
Okay. She brings in this like bog area, and she's like, I want to bring the field trip to you guys, because we don't have to leave the comfort of our classroom. And then the Flash Bee incident happens. And Starlight comes in as this shit is all going down. And she's like, get these guys out of here. I'll take care of it. And so she takes care of the Flash Bees. And then this next scene.
She was furious.
Now, here's the thing. Number one, she was totally in line with saying that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm sorry, but Trixie was being a little shit throughout this whole episode, as per her usual, but even more of a little shit than usual.
There's a great second, real quick, there's a great moment where right before she ripped Trixie a new one, where like there's like the shot of Starlight picking herself up and Trixie standing across her, none the wiser. And like they said, the music stopped. When does the music ever stop in the show? But the music stopped. Did you notice the edges around the screen were slightly darker?
Holy shit! I did not realize that.
Yeah, at least when I was watching it, the sides were subtly darker because they were in the room and stuff, and it was a great. And immediately I was just like, oh, this is gonna be spicy.
Uh-huh. And Trixie deserved it, but I'm just like, God damn, Starlight, you are dishing out some real bad burns here.
Man, that's why you were such a good bad guy.
Uh-huh. And so then Twilight comes in and she's asking, how's it going? And it's like, well, I really wanted my friend to be here, but, all she's doing is causing issues. And, Starlight figures out that, oh, it's because I've been stringing her along. I should have told her earlier. And, unlike how Twilight has been in the past, she's actually like, yeah, you're right. You did learn the right lesson here, because you don't want to string a friend along like that, because it can cause issues. So she goes to apologize to Trixie, and they make up, and then Trixie is like, we got to find someone for you because it wasn't a bad idea, but we need someone that, number one, is detail oriented or responsible like Starlight, and detail oriented like Twilight, and smart since it's a school. And she's used
so mad I didn't see this coming.
And she brings out smoke balls for emphasis.
I was
and was like
so
stacking
mad.
them. And she starts juggling them. And Starlight's like, well, man, I wish it was someone I knew because it would make things easier on me.
It was so obvious, and I didn't think of it at all. I was so mad.
My wife pointed it out, and I was like, wait, huh? Or no. Sunburst came out, and she was like, I knew it. I'm like, fuck, how did I not see that?
Same thing. I was just like, oh my God. He did not cross my mind once this episode. He was not seen or heard from or of or mentioned at all. I was too focused on being heartbroken by Octavia. And when he came out, I was like that meme for that one dude. That one white dude where he's sitting and he's just like, the one where he's just like that. That was my reaction.
Yeah.
I was just like, are you kidding me?
Now they bring Sunburst in, and I love the little continuity nod where Starlight's like, wait, won't this interfere with your crystalline duties? He's like, well, now that Furry's a little older, I only have a couple things per year to deal with. So, plus, I love working in a school. That'd be awesome. And so he gets hired as vice head stallion, and Trixie gets the job as the student counselor, which I watched that, and I'm like, it doesn't really make sense, but fuck it, whatever. We're just gonna deal with it.
That was my reaction too. I was just like, sure. Okay.
Because not once did it show that she cared about the students. No,
except there was Gallus.
Well, Gallus is the chillest dude ever, so why not?
That's true.
So that was a horseshoeing.
Stupid title, but good episode. I'm gonna give this bad boy a 9.
Okay.
I thought it was not without its flaws, of course, but it was a fun romp.
Okay. I give this one an 8. It definitely had some great moments. I loved the main conflict and how, because Starlight's always been that kind of character that doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, yes. after she reformed at least.
Yes.
And so it makes sense with her character, and it was overall pretty good. So yeah, 8 from me. Now, next episode, it's going to be a Final Daring New episode.
This is gonna be some. This is gonna be some ish. I can already tell. Did you read that plot synopsis?
Yes, it's Daring Doubt is the title, and it's basically when someone else is authoring books that are, being a ripoff and taking inspiration from or whatever from the AK Yearling books. Rainbow Dash is pissed off, and Fluttershy is curious as to what's going on. So I'm thinking either Howie Zodal or Cavaleron, or hell, even something out there like Quibble Pants is like, what? I never let that shit go without the books after the third one wasn't any good.
Bro, all I know is that this is a lesson. Always remember, kids. Always remember to write my OC, don't steal.
Yeah, right. Daring Do, copyright Equestria.
My Sonic the Hedgehog OC, super original. Don't steal! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! 1 exclamation point.
God, the Sonic. Honestly, people say that the Brony fandom is toxic. No, the Sonic the Hedgehog fandom is way more toxic.
I just like Sonic. I've never played a Sonic game where I was like, I played some mediocre ones. I played some that weren't all that fun or even great, but I'm being honest with you. I've played most of the Sonic games, and I've never played one that's like really, really bad. But you got folks that are like, if it ain't 2D, it's garbage, or if it's after Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, it's garbage, which is probably a slightly stronger argument. But still, it's like, look, to save a long rant short, it's gonna end with Sonic Unleashed was underrated. That's what this is gonna. That's what this is gonna end with. Yeah. Hashtag bring back the Werehog.
Because honestly, that was still fun. It was. They tried something different, and it actually worked in a lot of aspects.
I thought so too.
So until next week, that's it from me, John.
Me, Snakeskin.
And we will talk to you guys later. Peace out, Dragon.
Adios.